this week I spoke with Carolyn Young, CEO of Retail New Zealand, about the rise in crime and how much it is costing the country, $2.6 billion a year, of which we end up paying for, of course. And she disclosed and discussed that 98% of her members had experienced some form of retail theft. I heard from a few of you to see how you feel about it and what you've seen, especially in your local shops and supermarkets. One staff member at a supermarket said it was a daily occurrence and that there is nothing they can do about it. They just have to stand and watch them go by. Why put yourself in possible danger, they say, for a trolley of groceries? So while we seem to concentrate on the thieves and the police, why aren't they doing anything? Well, they are, but it's hard for them to be there. What about the staff? Surely, if it is happening on a daily basis, it must be soul-destroying. Surely there are some that want to strike back, stop a person, not just stand by, and it must be scary. More and more workers are experiencing this, and how do they deal with it? Dean Chandler is the director of Allsafe. They specialise in educating teams on how to stay safe in the workplace. They help staff to be better equipped to handle workplace violence and confrontation issues, managing robbery incidents and everything in between. Geez, what's in between? And Dean Chandler joins me now. Dean, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah. Thanks for having me on the show.
I think this is really fascinating, Dean, because as I said, we talk a lot about crime, retail crime in particular. And, New Zealand's getting really hard hit at the moment. And we can talk about that because I know that's not the only thing that you look at. So who mostly are your clients, Dean?
Look, we work with a range of organisations across the country, throughout New Zealand and into Australia. And everything from government departments who may deal with difficult clients, right through to retailers who are dealing with, as you mentioned, a number of thefts daily, to the point that, we're talking about over $1 billion in losses for retailers per year.
It's like 2.6 billion, Dean.
Yeah, like I say,
phenomenal.
It's huge. And, we've got somewhere around 120,000 thefts reported per year. And that's just the ones that we know about. And we suspect that there's a whole lot more that go undetected or maybe just aren't reported by the retailer themselves.
Well, you say on your website that New Zealand, on average, there's a robbery occurring every 3 to 4 hours. I mean, I would have gone, what, really? But I believe that. I mean, I reckon it could be even, a couple of hours over all of New Zealand. Dean, what do you work with businesses about how to deal with internal conflicts? Like let's put aside, say, a supermarket, because I do want to get to that. Do you
Sure.
deal with companies that might want you, or you just go in and give them talk to them about how to deal with conflicts internally, or even violent conflicts?
Yeah, look, Leah, what we actually deal with is primarily difficult customers, and so that's everything from somebody who's verbally abusive and a little hard to manage, so therefore some de-escalation strategies, right through to, as you mentioned, dealing with high-level incidents of armed robbery, and just making sure. Obviously, our key goal is to ensure staff safety, and so that when people go to work and they're confronted by these events, that they handle them effectively and they come out safely. And it's not so much that we go in and talk to them about it, but we actually provide systems and training that give the staff the skills to have the confidence to deal with situations that might unfold. And a lot of that's scenario-based, and we call it experiential learning. And so what it effectively does is once we've given them the tools to manage those situations, we then put them into a scenario-based activity where they have to think on their feet to what's unfolding in front of them and apply the correct strategies into that. And it's very empowering for staff, and also gives them good confidence in knowing what they can and can't do.
Oh, that's really interesting. Can you give me an example? Give us an example of putting them in an experience.
Yeah, absolutely. as an example, if somebody has a shoplifter or a suspected shoplifter in their store and they're giving off some clear signs that potentially they are there for the purpose of shoplifting, what the staff member can do, how they can approach. And obviously that involves things like situational awareness, making sure that they understand safe distance and safe positioning, because we know that unfortunately when people are shoplifting, if it is detected and they're apprehended or approached, then there's a potential for them to become aggressive, confrontational. And so it's important that staff understand legally what they can and can't do, and also make good decisions around their safety. Because at the end of the day, sure, it's money walking out the door, but we certainly want to try and prevent assaults on staff. And we've seen incidents just not so long ago, actually, where staff have approached offenders or thieves and been confronted with some pretty nasty behaviour. So we don't want staff sort of putting their safety on the line, and we want to make sure that their decision making is good. And so that's a key part of the training that we deliver.
And I suppose you don't. Part of it is you confrontation. I mean, you don't train them to know how to. I mean, you can go. I mean, you can go. If I don't. I mean, because I don't know the law. I've got to be honest. I know you're not allowed to touch people, but if I saw someone stealing, you're allowed to go up and say, could you empty your bag or can I have a look? But do you find some people that you run through these training with, they don't even want to do that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's purely it comes back to the employee and what they're comfortable with in terms of how they deal with a situation. And it's not always that they approach that person, because like you say, they may not be comfortable in doing that. And of course, we're dealing with somebody who's in a fight or flight headspace as they commit that offence. And so therefore their behaviour may be a little irrational or unpredictable. And so we give the staff the options around what they can and can't do. And whether that's to approach the person or whether it's to alert other staff or security or even just to phone the police. And look, we know the police resources are certainly stretched, but we're also aware that police have set up some retail target groups around the country, and we're seeing more police back on the beat, which is a great thing. Foot patrols certainly create a good deterrent to those who might be thinking about shoplifting or committing offences in that area.
You said, Dean, that you also deal with not just in New Zealand, but you've also dealt with in Australia, got some Australian clients. How's their approach? How are they faring? Are they, do you see a similarity? And I gather you train the same way, but are we a little different than our Aussie cousins?
No, we're not really. In fact, it's very similar. The legislation obviously is slightly different over there, but it holds the same theme around what you can and can't do in terms of restraining people or detaining people, and so obviously there are clear laws around that, and so it's, as you alluded to earlier, Leah, it's a very difficult thing to deal with shoplifters because some of them are so brazen. They'll walk in, they'll fill up their basket in the supermarket and walk out the door, and staff kind of feel like their hands are tied a little bit. And obviously, the police recommendation is that they phone them, and then the police come and deal with it. But as I say, we know that the police resources are stretched also. So, it can potentially mean that person walks away, and the likelihood of getting that stock back is very, very unlikely.